So, thank you so much for joining us today. I am being joined by Emily Jacobs, co-founder of Leap of Faith Foundation, alongside her husband Kellen. Emily and Kellen's journey into the adoption advocacy began with a calling they both felt even before they met each other. After welcoming three biological children, they finalized the adoption of their youngest daughter, Lila Faith, in 2020. And at the same year, they launched Leap of Faith Foundation through Norton County Community Foundation. What makes the foundation truly unique is the focus on supporting all parties in the adoption triad: birth parents, adoptive parents, and ultimately the child at the heart of the adoption. The foundation emphasizes maintaining strong, healthy, open adoption relationships supported by mental health resources and financial assistance. Emily, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. What an honor. I appreciate it. We met long ago, but who knew we'd be holding hands still?
Very true. We do go way back, and I have personal connections to Norton,
Yep,
Kansas, and so through my mother. So, Emily, let's hear your story. Can you share what led you and Kellen to adoption and how your youngest daughter came into your lives?
absolutely. We spoke of adoption even in our dating days, which was kind of bizarre because neither of us had a story of adoption in our biological families growing up. I think, I know God just placed it on our hearts and left that door open for just some intrigue in those early days of dating.
Mhm.
Then, when we were married, we did have three biological children. We struggled to get pregnant right away with our first. We had some losses. And so at that moment, we revisited what could adoption look like. Maybe that's how we'll build our family. And then we were blessed with three biological children after that. And I honestly had almost closed that adoption door in my mind, in my heart. I had three young kids. I was a stay-at-home mom, and that was my focus. And then when our son was two, our youngest biological child is a boy. And when he was two, my husband brought it up to me again over Thanksgiving weekend and said, we were called to adopt. Do you want to revisit that? We're not getting any younger. And I agreed with that part quickly. We weren't getting any younger. And little did I know, he had already started to do some research on his own and provided that to me at that point.
Mhm.
And I took the deep dive with him, and we met with some agencies. Adoption and Beyond actually was one of those agencies. And you were out, Stephanie, and you had somebody else in that actually wasn't even supposed to be working with the adoptive side. But I really would have to say that Julie was at the right place at the right time and met with us. And we really felt a connection with the agency, with the calling. And then we moved forward from there. Any adoptive parent knows the binder that you walk out of a meeting with of the to-do list. And quite honestly, we kind of pushed it aside for a little bit, prayed on it, prayed over it, and just kind of felt overwhelmed, as I think a lot of adoptive parents would after initial meeting. And then there was a instance in our life that really just put the exclamation mark on, no, there's a calling out there. We need to get this paperwork in. And then whatever happens, happens. Whether we're chosen, whether we're not chosen, whether we match, whether we don't want to regret not opening the door. And so we did open that door in September of 2019. And we had a failed placement within 3 weeks of opening that. And to me, at the moment, that hurt and it was sad and it was a loss, it felt like. Very similar to some of our pregnancy losses is my parallel to that, just that heartache. However, to me, as the wife who was just kind of following what the husband was reminding me our calling was, to me, that was also the exclamation point of, no, your heart's all the way in this. Like now I see God. Now I hear you. Let's be all in. And so I almost feel like that loss led me personally to knowing, yes, this is a part of God's.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that.
And
Exactly.
so then we matched with Lila's birth mom right before Christmas, and she was halfway through her pregnancy at that point. And my husband describes that match meeting as kind of the most awkward blind date you'll ever go on.
That's a
Um,
perfect description.
yeah, because nobody really knows what's going to be said or happen. And again, Julie facilitated that as best as you can.
Mm-hmm.
And we started to form that bond with Mama B, Brittany, Lila's birth mom at that point, and really, I don't know, just the connection we had at that meeting and understanding how brave and selfless she was being by her choice really just emphasized the appreciation and the admiration for any mother choosing adoption for their child. And that was just more powerful than I could have ever put words on or could have imagined.
Right.
And our relationship grew from there. Lila was born in the time of COVID. So there's that.
Yeah, in the very beginning.
Right at the beginning, right? Nobody knew what COVID really was. And of course, Kansas City was a hot spot, and birth plans changed. And we moved our entire family of 5 to the Missouri side. Schools were closed down. I was homeschooling 3 kids, which I never signed up to do, but all of a sudden I was also doing. And then Lila's birth mom, one of the best gifts she ever gave me was inviting me into labor and delivery and then staying with her. And our bond and our love for this child just ignited. Something that might sound awkward to the person listening from, afar was the most beautiful thing. I still credit Brittany with the gift of placing Lila on my chest when Lila was born. And the way she looked at it is, Emily, she needs to bond with you right now. And that is a gift that no one can take away. Mm-hmm. That is a gift that I will never forget. And honestly, Lila being 5 now, she still finds comfort in laying her head on my chest. Oh. And without that initial, I don't know. Mm-hmm. But when life feels big to a 5-year-old, she lays her head on my chest because of the gift her birth mom gave to me. So, so there's a little background and a little beauty all wrapped up in one.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's such a beautiful story to hear that interweaving still even today. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what was the pivotal moment during your adoption journey that made you realize that there was a need for the foundation like Leap of Faith?
Hey, so we had spoken a little bit about a few of the other needs that we saw just through our adoption journey. Mm-hmm. And some of those made us feel like we were going to have to judge people. And we didn't want to do that, but we definitely wanted to give back to the adoption community. Mm-hmm. And so during COVID, a lot of the places were shut down as well that provide mental health. And so we loved that Adoption Beyond did some group support for birth moms and things like that right after delivery, and to help her, our birth mom, especially Brittany and Mama B, heal some, but also through walking that last half of the pregnancy with Brittany, to hear some of the past traumas that might be impacting her present day that we didn't want her to have to carry into her future life. That hit us kind of like a bullet straight to the heart. So many of the brave women that choose adoption, there's trauma in the past that hasn't been dealt with.
There is.
Adoption is trauma.
Yep.
And so to help them heal both of those so that their future is not affected by their past or their present, but then the freedom can come. And so we felt that that was the biggest gift that a foundation could grow in the type of funding we give with private, infant, domestic, open adoption. That's a lot of words before the word adoption.
Right.
But adoption is so broad, as Adoption Beyond taught us, that we really felt like we needed to stay in a lane so that we could keep our focus and be great stewards of our donors' funds. And so we stuck with the adoption that we knew the most about and that we fully believed in, because we're just not educated in the other types. We haven't lived it. We've lived this, we've seen the beauty, and we want to share that gift with others.
That's great. I love it. So you're currently working with grant number 13.
Yes.
So can you walk us through what impact these grants have made so far?
Sure. So we are working on number 13. Number 13 to us will be 13 is kind of a unlucky number, but for Leap of Faith, it's kind of one of those that we'll never forget. Leap of Faith will be headed out of the Midwest with number 13,
Oh.
with mental health support going to a birth mom in Arizona,
Okay.
and with adoptive family support going all the way to the East Coast.
So how'd the family find you then?
With another connection I had made earlier with an
Okay.
agency out of the Carolinas,
Okay.
they have a charity outside of their agency that
Oh,
encourages birth moms. So we partner with them at Mother's Day, and this happened to be a connection through that connection.
nice, nice. So
So
we're
yeah,
growing.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it's beautiful. So oh, did I freeze? Are you
Oh,
good?
there we
Okay.
go. Yeah.
So okay, good. So one of the things that our application process, which can be found on our webpage, it encourages the adoptive family and the birth mom to apply together. That is holding hands from the beginning for the sake of a child, for the sake of their child, and the open adoption process. So they apply together. It comes to us via mail or email. We have a board of 5. The board then reviews the application, um, sees that it aligns with our mission statement, our values, the type of adoption that we're trying to target, and just hoping that the adoptive family has the love and compassion this birth mom will need to heal. We don't judge what type of open adoption they choose to have. We just want that from the beginning where they work together. So they apply together, our board votes, and then from there, we distribute funds.
So have you ever had to turn
Yep,
down a grant?
we have had to.
Okay.
We have had to turn down some that came from foster to adopt.
Okay. Because
This
it fell outside of
application
your mission. So.
outside of our mission. And
Yeah.
also I could tell from the application
Mhm.
that there might be a strained relationship between the adoptive parents and the birth mom. There wasn't the mutual respect and love that we like to see. So we turned that one down. We had to turn one down about 2 weeks ago that came in. Our hearts were torn. This family had experienced some infant loss and things like that, and they were wanting to do kind of a embryo or surrogacy adoption. That's not quite where we are. So just really trying to be wonderful stewards of the donor funds that we have and keep our scope and sequence in that regard.
In your
And
lane.
yes, absolutely. And just, we don't want to step into territory we aren't comfortable or know great knowledge about. So,
So what does a typical grant look like, and what kind of supports our families and birth parents? I say parents because it's not
sure.
only just the mother.
Right.
Yeah, and that's
Right.
what I love about your
Right.
foundation. What are
Right.
they receiving?
Yep. So 2/3 of our funds go back to the birth family, birth parents. Typically, it's a birth mom. We have also supported birth fathers. One of our board members is an adoptee himself, about a generation ahead of me. And he has such a good vision of wanting to support the birth father in the picture because he was reunited with his birth father a few years ago. And his admiration, you can tell, shines through. And so I appreciate his view, making sure if that birth father's in the picture and wants to receive. The majority of the funds to the birth parents are for their mental health therapy. That looks a few different ways. If we distribute the grant to their adoptive attorney, the attorney pays the bills out of that trust. If we do through an agency typically doesn't want to hang on to those grant funds, which I don't blame. And so those bills are sent directly to me and I pay them out of their account. We're working with both right now. This morning I paid 2 birth moms therapy bills. And I also am distributing a check to the agency in Arizona. So, it can work a few different ways. Sometimes in that birth parent funding also, we try to go a little bit above and beyond that if they're struggling to get their feet under them, a rental payment, an extra bill, something like that. We do try to look at the whole picture to make sure physical needs are met as well. The other 1/3 of the funds is distributed a few different ways also, typically easing the financial burden of the adoptive family. Typically, the adoptive family will cover postpartum expenses for birth mom 6 to 8 weeks after delivery. This was important to Kellen and I when we helped Brittany because she had, all the birth effects of a mom.
Right. They have to get back on their feet. Yeah,
Yes,
exactly. And then the grief and
absolutely.
loss and
Yes.
yeah.
And she doesn't need to worry about bills and work and how much time do I take off.
Yeah.
Our biggest concern as adoptive parents were that she was just taken care of.
Yeah.
Don't worry about a thing. Do what you need to do. And so the adoptive side typically covers that. That can be $3,000. That can be $7,000. But also the adoptive family is buying the supplies for the new baby. They're taking off work. So that extra financial burden, although they're willing, it still could be burdensome. So if the birth family pays the agency those bills, then we reimburse we reimburse the adoptive side. If the birth mom submits her bills to us, then the adoptive side never has to pay it. I pay those bills out of their amount. So hoping to ease that burden and that worry from the adoptive side of coming up with a little bit more money when adoption's already so expensive. But if you look at the grand scheme of things, it's all loving on that birth mom.
Right. Yeah. So what is the average grant amount?
Yep. The average grant amount that we've given out of the 13 I calculated just this morning, because we did have that new one come in, is $7,750. Again, that's average. Some of them could be lower. Some of them could be higher. Some of them are circumstantial. But that is our average out of 13 of them. We've been around since November 2021. So we're going into our 4th year next month and giving out $7,750 13 times. We're doing okay. So we've been able to make an impact, which is great.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that I was going to have you share some stories, but I know it's really made an impact for our families and our birth parents. And it's just that peace of mind knowing that this is there after placement to help. So, yeah.
And I think that also, a piece that I love, we've had some people apply and say, oh, she gets government help. Oh, she doesn't need this. My thought is, oh, she has a choice. So many times these brave women have been told every choice they have to make, all the way down to who their doctor can be, what treatment they can receive. With the Leap of Faith funds, when we pay the bill directly to the therapist, they get to choose. If they don't mesh with that therapist, they get to go try again. Right. Versus being told where they have to show up or get to show up. Or another extension that we've made is that we used to do 6 months postpartum. We've extended that to a year. The reason we do that, we don't want to force anybody when they're not ready to receive therapies. Again, it should be their choice when they're ready. And we've had 2 birth moms who didn't use their funds within that year. We put them back in the larger amount fund. But when they were reached out to at about 18 months out, they were ready. So we reinstated them. And now they're receiving therapies. So just trying to give some choice back to women that might not have had choices. But, championing them on in that regard.
Yeah, I just recently spoke with one of our moms who was receiving the help from your foundation, and I was asking her how her counseling was going. What does she think of the therapist? And she said, because she normally doesn't like to do therapy or medication, and so it's just it's just like. But the therapist that she got matched with and she chose and I recommended to her, she made an immediate connection with her. And she said, she told me stuff I didn't know about myself the other day. And so she was really learning a lot because she had a lot of past trauma herself. And so she was able to not only just deal with just the adoption, but also past as well, because
it all ties in, and they don't need to be chained to that. They deserve to be free. So, yeah.
So share stories that you really exemplifies why this work matters and a moment where you saw the foundation's impact firsthand.
Okay. So, a really cool story that I have from April of this year, 2025, would be that we were working with a triad, and the baby was not born yet, but would be soon. And so we were working very closely with this family. It would have been their second adoption, different agency than their first one, things like that, and just cheering them on. This little boy was about to be born. Little boy was born, and they got a call from the past agency that they worked with that the birth mom of their first adopted child had just delivered.
Wow.
And they wanted to place this 100% biological sibling with them also. The adoption attorney they were working with reached out to our foundation. We'd already approved the first application and explained the story. Said, this is the situation, but they already have the finances of this first adoption. Baby was 4 days old. He was tiny. He was identified as probably high needs risk anyways, but they didn't care. They loved him. So they reached out and said, is there anything you can do to help ease the financial burden? They just don't know if they can do it. And we said, absolutely, because our mission and vision is trying to make adoption an easier choice. Adoption is not easy in any regard, but if it allows an adoptive family to say, yes, we can do this and financially take a breath. And if it can allow a birth mom to say, wow, I'm worth it. Somebody believes in me. I can do this. That makes that step maybe just, even if it's a centimeter easier, then we've done our calling. And so that one was so cool, because without leap of faith, they might not have taken the literal leap of faith to have this other baby. And so those two babies there's a little boy from one birth mom and a little girl from another birth mom, and they're being raised, they're 10 days apart. They're being raised together with a 3-year-old little sister. And here's this couple who really struggled with, infertility and the bills that brought on them, wondering if they'd ever have a family. And now they have 3 precious souls that they get to call their own. But without leap of faith intervening, they might not have been able to. So that was a beautiful one.
Story. That is a fun story.
Yeah, that was a fun one. And then ways that we've been able to see our impact. One of the things that is a joy to all the board, but especially myself, is I try to make a connection with the people that we help. Some love that, connection. Some are more resistant, and that's okay. That's personalities. But getting to cheer on these birth moms. I had 2 emails this morning from different birth moms that know I'm a safe place to just connect with now, that know that I'm going to cheer them on. Adoptive moms that say, hey, how can I step in and help the foundation now? Or here's the most current picture. Those connections are beautiful. They're God-given. And then in the summer of 2024, my husband and I and our adopted daughter, Lila, we got to travel to Topeka and be at an event that one of the adoption attorneys, who now has an agency that we work with, invited us to. And in that moment, we got to hold 3 of the babies who were supported by Leap of Faith. In one of the situations, we met the adoptive parents and the child. In the other situation, we met the adoptive mom, the birth mom, and the babies. And to watch our own daughter, who loves babies, who is adopted, who has this story, be able to love on what she calls her leap of faith babies and pour her love back into something that she helped ignite in us, was a big exclamation mark for my heart. So that was beautiful.
Yeah, because you deal with families through the internet and email, and you don't really get to go face to face with them. So just use that connection. So
that was it was a beautiful, beautiful moment, and really ignited the spark. As you know, sometimes in this nonprofit work and in the trenches, it can get heavy, but that was that was the kick in the pants. We needed to keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so fun to hear.
Yeah.
So your foundation is unique in requiring adoptive and birth parents to apply together.
Yep.
Why is that collaboration process so important?
So that is super important to us simply because it shows the commitment to one another as adults, but more so the commitment to the adoptee, because the research shows that that open adoption is actually best for the child. And that is our sole.
I know you didn't start there, though.
We did not start there. Going back to our meeting in your office, probably the reason we sat on our huge binder forever is that was new to us as adoptive parents. We thought, we're going to enter this world with this other person. What does that look like? Do we want that? And really had to think and pray over it. And I was so thankful for the research your adoption agency provided to us, because without that, we might have been resistant. And I've talked with adoptive parents who are resistant. It's my baby. It's my, no. That, and I would really, again, thank your agency, but then also Julie, because she opened our eyes to the empathy and the compassion that was needed in a true, healthy, open adoption. And without her, I'm not sure where my eyes would look. So if I can be another voice reiterating what she has taught to us, and then obviously living this in our world now, I can preach from the mountaintops that it's a gift.
And before you go there, I want to hear a story about what's going on now with your open adoption. But sure. I think the one reason why I wanted to point that out is because that's where most families start, and that's okay.
Absolutely,
and that's where I started. That's where I started, and also,
yes.
And so it's just a learning process and just learning, and as long as you're open and to learning, have an open-hearted way to adoption, which is a book we recommend our families read.
Yes, absolutely, it is. Yes,
then I think you can get to a point where you see the benefits for everybody, actually. So
for everybody. And I'm glad you emphasized that. And I'm also so thankful for the books that were provided and things like that. From the adoptive parent side, you have to forgo all of your thoughts and expectations and open your mind to just receptivity of learning and educating truly what is best for your child, and then the whole triad, and then sometimes the constellation if you branch out further. But if we go in with a closed mind and it's my way or the highway, that's not going to be best for the child in the long term, which is so important that you stay goal oriented on that child's well-being. Because if we don't nurture the child, the traumatic steps that were outside of our realm of responsibility might become their trauma story. But if they can see the adoptive side loving and respecting, and just respecting the heritage in which they come from, the gift of that is amplified a million times. We did run into a hurdle with an agency who was protecting the birth mom, not wanting her to fill out an application in a emotionally charged time. But they made a statement on her behalf and on behalf of the adoption. And our board looked at that and respected that, because we don't want to add stress or trauma to an already emotionally charged situation. So if we needed to deal mostly for the opening part of this with an agency representative, that's okay. We want to protect that birth mom too. So if this was the way that the open could work and that she could feel our support, that's okay. It's not all our way or the highway either.
That's good to know. So you're living open adoption every day.
We are every day.
And can you share what that looks like for your family and why you're such an advocate for this model of adoption?
Sure, absolutely. And like you said, we did not start there, but I'm so thankful. Actually, the failed placement that we mentioned before our adoption, that birth mom was not looking to have an open adoption relationship. And I think of that often. Actually, that baby would be 6 today.
Yeah.
This is her
Okay.
birthday. Yeah.
Oh, really?
It always is on my heart. But
Oh.
her birth mom was not looking for an open adoption. And I think of the tragedy that that would have been. Because the gift that open adoption has been in the world we live every day is beautiful. Lila, our adopted daughter, is 5.5. She turned 5 last spring. To have a relationship with a woman that we call Mama B is a gift. Our whole house, our oldest daughter is 15, all the way down to Lila, who's 5. Everyone refers to her as Mama B. We see her personally 2 to 3 times a year. We will see her next month in November. Well, next month, this will be airing differently, but in November of 2025, we'll see her again. We spent a day with her in the summer. She has 3 other daughters that are Lila's biological siblings. At this point, she just calls them Mama B's girls, and that's okay. I don't know that she as a 5-year-old is ready to attach any other words or titles with them, and that's okay. We're kind of letting Lila drive that boat right now, and Mama B's okay with that too. But I say adoption has been beautiful for us. I believe if I were to speak on Mama B's behalf, she would say the same. A woman that we met who thought she'd never get married, got married, and we were at her wedding last year. A woman who didn't have a close relationship with Jesus got baptized and had communion at her wedding, and reaches out and says she's praying for us. And we reach out and we say we're praying for her. And we send gifts back and forth and pictures and calls very often. So cheering each other on. She cheers us on, we cheer her on, and we do it technology wise, but also in person. And the respect that she gives to her daughter, Lila, and the respect she gives to us as her chosen parents is shown in so many ways from her. And we just hope we can always do her justice and do her right also. And speaking highly of her, and to just ride the waves together. At age 5, emotions can run high in a little body, but our daughter knows it's a safe place to share those feelings, those thoughts, to cry on a hard day, but then to find my chest if she needs comfort on another. So it is a beautiful thing.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing those stories.
Yeah, for sure.
So every November you run a match month campaign. Can you explain how that works and why November is significant?
Sure. So everything about our foundation has been very intentional, from the color that you see with purple. Well, it's the color of adoption, and it happens to be Mama B's favorite color. With Leap of Faith having a capital E at the end, that's a bridge between Mama B and us. She asked if she could put an E at the end of Faith in Lila, Faith's name. So when we call it Leap of Faith, that E is there and it's capitalized because it is our bridge back to our own story. So November is purposeful also because Adoption Day, November 22nd, falls into November. We opened or kicked off our foundation in November purposefully in 2021. The thought came in 2020. We launched November 21st of 2021. And so we try, it's almost like an anniversary or a birthday of our foundation. Also purposeful because a lot of people will have those end of year tax write-offs that they want to do to a nonprofit. We are a 501c3. So that means tax deductible. We hold our large amount of funds in our community foundation here in Norton, Kansas. However, we're also our own standalone foundation now as well. So when we hold funds with our community foundation, they invest for us. So dollars grow, and we can do some of the impactful stuff that they do here in our small town. So we like to have that in the community, but then we also have our standalone foundation, which is powerful also. So every year in November till the end of December, we run a match campaign month. We have a private donor that donates $10,000 if we can match $10,000. So we work real hard Our content creator and our board right now is working on a lot of ideas for what can make our
That's just around the
2025.
corner when we're
Yeah, it
recording
is.
this. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. And then in 2026, we'll do the same. We have two different ways to donate. You can donate directly to our mailing address. We have a Venmo. We are kind of on all social media platforms and all of those options. So I know some people.
While we're talking about that, do you want to go ahead and share that information?
Sure. So we are on Facebook as just Leap of Faith. We are on Instagram with underscores between the words, leap underscore of underscore faith underscore foundation. Don't forget the E in faith. And then I can be reached by email at leapoffaith, LEAPOFFAITHE 2021 at gmail.com. So it's our foundation name, Leap of Faith 2021, which was our launch year, at Gmail. And those come directly to me. And then our mailing address that you can mail things to is P.O. Box 13, Norton, Kansas 67654. So a lot of different ways.
Put that information in the description as well
for
people. So
perfect. That's perfect. So you know, a match month, a matching opportunity. We had a generous donor at the beginning of our foundation just say, every time you can match funds, it's such an encouragement to generous donors that they might want to do that. We run one in the summer, but that's not sponsored by us. We get to take part of that because we have our fund at the Norton County Community Foundation. So I don't push that one quite as much because we have to play by their rules, which I respect. But I just don't have as much control over that one. This end of year one, we have the private donor that does it. So it makes it a little simpler for us to promo that one. Also, some people have chosen to be monthly donors. Some people have chosen to honor someone's birthday and donate on their birthday. Also, if you're doing estate planning with it being a nonprofit, it can be put in there. We have somebody looking into that right now. Our oldest is 15, our youngest is 5. Our goal is that they would be able to take the reins of this someday and that they would pass it on to the next generation after them. We don't plan to go away. We have plans of being sustainable and sticking around.
So you've expanded beyond providing grants. You're sending Mother's Day boxes to birth mothers, distributing encouragement packages to clinics across Kansas and Nebraska. What's your vision for Leap of Faith Foundation as it goes from here? And you kind of alluded to that a little bit.
Yeah, perfect. So a few different visions. When we started, we wanted to keep our narrow lane of what we were supporting, the type of adoptions. And then we were trying to stay Midwest just to stay smaller. We've opened our application process up nationwide, helped an adoptive family out of Idaho now, and then Arizona, and then the East Coast, it's spreading down also. And so our application process is now open nationwide. We have the funds to do that. We have it figured out a little bit more what it all looks like, not just a dream, it's a reality. So that's nice. And then we have a few other things in the work. We will continue to do birth mom boxes. That's with a partnership with Abiding Love Charities out of the East Coast. I actually have a book in talks with Julie under one cover, the adoptive mom view and the birth mom view, all under one cover. So that it opens up that perspective to both sides of adoption under one cover, instead of saying, well, if you want to read the adoptive parent book, here it is. And if you want to read a birth mom book, here it is. Taking some of those influential moments, match meetings, birth plans, and writing from both perspectives and putting it under one cover. Our hope would be that that would help with empathy and compassion from both sides. That a birth mom could then look through the eyes of an adoptive mom, that an adoptive mom could read what a birth mom's going through as she gets an ultrasound, as she finds out the gender, with the name picking, all of that. But having it under one cover, and then we would hope to distribute that to agencies and have it for sale on all the platforms and whatever.
That's exciting to hear that's coming together. So,
Yes. And
yeah.
so Julie and I have reconnected, which
Mhm.
what a gift that was also.
Mhm. Yeah, so
um,
just to tell you a little bit about who Julie is. So
yeah.
Julie Nilsson was one of our caseworkers, and she worked with our primarily our birth parents and adoptive families, helping with placements. And then she left us to open her own private practice and to do therapy. So, so yeah, so it was fun to see that you guys
It's
have
been
come
a
together.
fun reconnection. It has. And it,
Mhm.
um, just to be working together on this side,
Mhm.
um, you know, just she really is the one that I attribute the empathy and compassion that our household was able to have toward a birth mom. And so us being able to pass that on has been the inspiration for starting something like Leap of Faith.
That's great. If someone's listening and wants to support Leap of Faith, what are the specific needs now and what would make the biggest difference?
So, two great needs. One is just continuing to spread the word. We're 4 years in. We feel like we've spread pretty great in that 4 years,
Mhm.
but we're also people that always strive for just a little bit more.
Mhm.
So we don't plan to have that stop or cap out. With that spreading, then would come just getting our word to an agency that we might be able to help
Mhm.
other triads. But then also, in order to continue to help triads, we have to have generous donors. Thankfully, we have, had enough to keep us going for 4 years. There's always that need to continue to grow, to continue to serve, especially if we get nationwide. More fingers out there, the more applications we'll have, and the more funds that we'll need. Um, the other way is, we are not a faith-based foundation, but our board is very faith-based, just people. And so we always believe in the power of prayer, or that we're at the right place at the right time. That we can just do a work that's bigger than ourselves.
Mhm. Great. So, in closing, is there one message you want listeners to take away today? And what would that be?
The one message I would like listeners to take away is when I mentioned earlier about Leap of Faith was a vision to try to make adoption an easier choice. And by easier, we do not mean to lessen how hard the process is. Nothing about adoption's easy. Not pre-placement, not during matching, not post-placement. There's nothing about the story that's easy. But if we can ease the burden of one adoptive family or one family who will throw their hat in the ring to be an open house to a child that then is, a selfless and brave woman would then think, hey, I think adoption would be the best choice for my baby. That's not easy, but I know now I'll be supported and I will be able to pick my provider to help me deal with the trauma that adoption is and my past traumas, and I can get on my feet. If it can make it easier for any of those sides of adoption, then we've done our mission and we've done our vision. And in 13, we've seen it. But if people can just keep that in mind with Leap of Faith, it is not easy. We're not saying adoption is easy, but if we can lighten the burden and lighten the load for both sides, and then that adoptee gets to live a free, not trauma filled, but a free of burden type of life where they know they're supported by and loved by their biological roots, but their adopted roots also. That is our ultimate goal.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you again, Emily, for your time today and for
But
coming and sharing about your foundation. And I'm looking forward for this to go out on
yeah,
to our YouTube channel for others to
fantastic.
hear. So,
We'll make sure we share that too and keep cheering you guys on. Thanks for the work you do and for having me on.
well, I hope that you enjoyed our time with Emily today. And just know if you're thinking about adoption, just know you're in the right place and we're here to help. See you later. Bye.